addiction is a very broad term. It comes in so many different forms. But the one or the two main categories of addiction that most people look at is drugs and alcohol. Well, I'm talking about drugs with mine, which was prescription drugs. And alcohol as well, but I really didn't touch too much on it because I really didn't care too much for it. But literally, addiction takes the form of food, sex, caffeine, smoking, all different terms. You could have a clothes addiction, shopping addiction, anything you can get addicted to. So when someone says something about addiction, do me a favor, guys. Don't jump to the conclusion of drugs or alcohol. There's so many other addictions people have. Just take the time and listen to them if they want to talk. If they don't push them to, and never ever judge. Don't be that person that's going to be the judgmental fuck that makes somebody go, this is why I don't want to talk about it or get help. Okay, I'm going to stop yammering now. Let's get into the video.
I'm not afraid of the boogeyman. Instead, I look at him like he's a friend. There's not a monster out there in the world that's scarier than the one that's with you.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to yet another chapter in my Barrel series. If you are new here, hello, my name is Corey. This series is all about my life and turbulent parts of my life at that, because I really want to make it crystal clear that even us YouTubers, any type of personality, we all go through a hard time in life. But yet, most of them only show you what they want you to see and not their whole life, which is fine. I don't mind that too much because everybody does things at their own accord. However, me, I want to use my platform and my voice for the greater good. I want my story to help even one person. I would hope it would help a ton of other people. However, who knows? If I only help one person from this series, I pull exactly what I need to pull, and that is happiness knowing that I helped one person. This is, again, chapter 2 in the series. It is entitled Addiction, How It Started to 3 Years Sober, and Everything in Between. And it's that everything in between that comes with a very extreme warning. If contemplated suicide, if self-mutilation, specifically cutting, triggers you, this is not the chapter for you. I urge you to wait for chapter 3 to come out. But saying that, as we go on, the chapters get more and more in depth and a little bit more triggering. So hopefully you can hang in with me. If not, I truly understand. So let's get into this chapter, shall we? All right, so let's go ahead and start where my addiction took place. I was on my 4th round of cancer, and I have been through it 5 times. I am in remission now. Hopefully it stays that way. However, I dealt with it 5 times, but in the 4th time is when my addiction completely started. Now, we all know, if you know someone with cancer, if it's you, if it's a family member, whomever it is, you know cancer comes with a very big price tag as far as pain. I can't even begin to describe to you the pain. It's something unlike anything you've ever dealt with in your life. Now, if you hear me kind of stopping for a minute, I'm still working on my coffee. So bear with me. If you know, you know. Anyways, so I was on my 4th round, and I was getting worse, and it was becoming progressively more and more painful. And the doctor decided to put me on very, very strong pain medication, which normally, as you guys know, Doctors normally put you on Percocet or Vicodin or whatever type of pain medication of the least resistance, let's just say. And he decided to pop me on the very strong shit. And it worked. Don't get me wrong. It really did. It was like a time release, something or other. And it worked. And I finished my last round and I was still on the pain medication. And without going into all detail, that's where I started my addiction. That's where it all began because he had me on this pain medication for 6 months, guys. 6 months. That's a very, very long time to be on a strong narcotic pain medication. And I'm not going to say that I didn't need it, but it was not as necessary, so to speak. But of course, I kept on taking it as directed, and it come to an end. I came to the end of the bottle. Well, where my doctor went wrong, and I think this is kind of where the major part of my addiction started, as I already said. If I go around and around, guys, I'm sorry, but I'm trying to get this out, and if I remember something or I want to put something different in, I'm just going to throw it in. It's just how I am. If you guys have been following me a long time, you know. um, but so I realized that I took my last pill and I called my doctor and I said, should I get another refill with this stuff? You know, I don't know what to do. So naturally they said, well, make an appointment. You can come in and talk to your doctor. And at that point, it was referred over to my primary care doctor because I went into remission. Thankfully, remission. So I went to see my primary care doctor and he was like, well, I really see no need to put you back on this pain medication. He said that it's not necessary, so he pulled me off of it. Now, all of you know that have had pain medication for an extended amount of time, it's a necessity to wean somebody off of them. And what I mean by wean is take them off of the medication slowly, not abruptly. Take them down milligram by milligram until it's safe to take them off of it completely. Well, back then, I don't think doctors really understood the meaning of wean your patients. Hold on a second, I'm drinking coffee still. Wean your patients off of strong medication so they don't go through withdrawal. Well, if you guys don't know what withdrawal is, I'm going to insert now a technical term for what it is. Now, in my eyes, withdrawal is the shits, the pukes, the shakes, the shivers, the flu times infinity. Okay, it's miserable. You just want to die. You just want to die. And it's not like you go through it for a day and then it's gone. No, 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 no. You can be withdrawing severely for up to 1 week after you stop, and then it eventually tapers down. But here's the thing, you can't do it. You can't. Like back then, they were forcing you to do this kind of stuff. You know, you ask them for like medication for the nausea and the diarrhea, and they think it's unnecessary. Well, yes, it's necessary. It is so incredibly necessary because if you can manage the symptoms of it, you can get through it and probably come out the other side smiling and saying, I'm done. Well, no, I couldn't handle it. After 2 days, I was over it. I had to do something, and I went to the emergency room. Now, the emergency room was my crutch through a lot of my addiction. Back when I was going through this, there was no such thing as the, what is it? The medication. At this moment. But they didn't have that in their system. So they didn't know what doctors gave what. Like, it was almost easy. And so I went to the emergency room and I walked in really sick. And they looked at me, and because of my history with cancer, took me straight back, got me hooked up to an IV. Now, they pumped Dilaudid through my IV. Dilaudid, as I learned, is the equivalent of heroin. It's a very strong pain medication that the hospitals tend to not give you anymore. As a matter of fact, a lot of the hospitals around me legitimately do not give opioid medications at all in the emergency rooms anymore unless it's warranted. Like, seriously, like, you got to have a broken fucking bone sticking out, or something like that. They got to find something that warrants pain medication. But back then, they gave it out like it was candy. And so, pretty much, they checked me out. My symptoms had stopped. Of course, because you have a narcotic in you again. Your symptoms just, they're gone. So, I had to make up something without telling them I was withdrawing from a heavy duty pain medication. Now, I legitimately at that point in time had no clue how severe I was hooked on this stuff. I thought, okay, well, as long as I keep a little of this medication in me, I'll never go through that again. But how am I going to do that when your primary care doctor says no? Anyway, so they sent me home with a prescription for Percocet. It's an opioid narcotic that definitely does reverse withdrawal symptoms. And I was feeling good. I was feeling better. But as the days went on, I think I had like a 7-day supply. I found myself taking 2 instead of 1. Um, and then when I realized that my prescription was about to run out, I freaked the fuck out. Now, mind you, I didn't have the need for pain medication. I didn't need it. Okay, I didn't. But I knew that I didn't want to withdraw, and I got scared. So I went down the entire path of different emergency rooms, getting different prescriptions. I even went as far as to go out of state when the ERs around me would no longer give it to me. Now, at the time, I was actually married, and my husband had no idea what I was doing while he was at work. No idea what I was doing. And slowly but surely, he kind of became privy to it. And the bad part about him, though, is that he ignored it. He didn't say anything about it. He didn't, I guess, see that I had an issue. I'm not going to blame him for that. But long story short, he allowed the addiction to go on and on and on. And I legitimately got to the point with narcotic pain medication that I was so I know this is going to be TMI, but you know what? It's my story. I became so constipated and so bound up by narcotic pain medication that I had to go into the emergency room, legitimately into one, to help me use the bathroom. I had no idea these things would make me so incredibly constipated. It was horrible. If you know, you know. Just let me know in the comments if you've been through that. It's not fun. So, the ERs palpated my stomach, hurt like hell, put me through CT scan, and showed that I was severely bound up, and I had a blockage in my lower intestine. And I was admitted to the hospital, tube down the nose, everything else. And eventually the blockage went away and I was okay. However, I was fortunate enough to get off of the narcotics at this point because they weaned me down from them. And I was able to let them go, just let them go. Now, normally, a normal person would stop at that point and not even care anymore. And I did for a while. I wasn't on them. My life was looking up. I was working again. I was truly enjoying life at that point. But as life goes, there's always a kicker. It was about a year later. I was at work and I started bleeding. Um, and when I say bleeding, not like a normal period, but bleeding, profusely, profusely bleeding. And the rescue squad was called. My husband was called. And I got to the hospital. They did an emergency CT scan and found that I had another tumor in my female parts. Now, at this point, I hadn't had a hysterectomy yet. I had a partial hysterectomy, but not a full one. And they had to take me for emergency surgery. Because of the fact that of my history with cancer, they had to figure it out fast because of the amount of blood I was losing and so on and so forth. Well, all I can remember is being shot up with more Dilaudid, and I went to sleep. And when I woke up, I was in this different type of a room. It was, I guess, recovery. Put me back in the hospital. And again, of course, pain medication. Now, it's warranted when you have that kind of stuff, right? But a part of me was liking the fact I was back on pain medication. So I was good with it. Got home. Had a ton of pain medication at my disposal now. Skip forward a couple of months where I was up and moving, feeling better. And if I forgot to tell you, they found cancer again. So naturally, the vicious cycle was going backwards again. But this time they had taken it out of my body, but still doing chemo and radiation. That's why I said skip forward a few months to where I was off of chemo and radiation. I was happy. I was healthy again. I was good. But we had the factor pain medication. I was severely hooked. I was severely, severely hooked. Again, I started doing the doctor shopping. And I'm going to insert a definition of that now. And it was getting bad again. I was going out of state, different emergency rooms, different primary care doctors, like going crazy, thinking in my own brain, I need this shit. I need it. I need it. I'm not a junkie. I'm not an addict. I need it. I used cancer as a crutch for it for a very long time. And that's fucked up. But I said I was going to bear all, so here we go. And long story short, my marriage ended. Had some stuff to do with me, but had some stuff to do with another person, and that is a different chapter. However, I lost my marriage. Mentally, I was spiraling downhill. My doctors had put me on Xanax for my anxiety, constant panic attacks. I couldn't function. Couldn't function. And I ended up in a homeless shelter because my husband decided to really completely not give a fuck what happened to me or my child. We ended up in a homeless shelter. And if you've ever been in homeless shelters before, you know. They regulate any medication that you bring into the place. It's a safety thing, and I understand it, but at that point I'm like, nah, what the fuck? I had medication that I took the way I wanted to take it that worked for me, or so I thought. And they were taking me back down off of it again, and we're going through the withdrawals again. And I couldn't fucking handle it. Honestly, I could not. But anyway, fast forward a few months, I somehow made it through to where I tricked everybody into thinking I was sober, and I was not. And I got a decent job. I rented out a basement apartment from that boss. Everything was looking up, man. I was feeling better about myself and still on that medication. And that helped, but I was addicted. And one day, this person, a person, decided it was a good idea to make me do things that I did not want to do because this person had control over me because I had nothing else in my life. To do things I did not want to do. Again, things I did not want to do, but that is a whole different chapter. So I'm not going to get into it. Which made me fall back on alcohol heavily and drugs again. And this time it was worse than it's ever been. And it got so bad that my daughter looks at me and she says, Mom, now mind you, she was like 12 years old, I think, 11 or 12. She said, Mom, it's either me or the medication. I looked at her and I said, the medication. You have no fucking clue what I'm going through. Oh my God, I still hate myself for that to this fucking day. Now, mind you, me and my daughter are fine. It took a while, but we got back to where we were supposed to be. In a nutshell, I ended up losing her to foster care and adoption through all of this mess. And it wasn't until, I don't know, I think it was like a year after that Mike came into my life. And he, at first, was a pain in my ass. And he's still a pain in my ass. He knows he's a pain in my ass. But if it wasn't for him watching out for me religiously like he did and still does, I would be dead. I'm not kidding you. He went homeless of his own accord. He did not have to be homeless. He went homeless with me so I wouldn't be alone. Because I refused to give up this medication. And I was ruining everything and everyone around me. I had figured out the whole cutting thing. That it helped take the pain away from my head and put it somewhere else. And felt like I had control of my life when I cut. And when I say I cut, I have scars. I will insert a picture now. They were deep. I was not playing. I would cut in front of him. I would cut in front of anybody. It didn't make a difference. I was that fucked up on medication. I didn't care who watched me. Okay? I was put in a psych ward, came out, lost the place to live. We went homeless. He didn't have to, but he did to watch out for me. And I'll never forget it. We were staying in this motel that down in a place in Virginia, sometimes the police have funds that they can put homeless people in motels. This motel was lovingly called Bedbug Motel. Use your imagination. I was so damn depressed though. I went into the bathroom. I sat on the floor, locked the door, had a knife to my arm. I was ready to pull it up my arm. I don't know why I just didn't do it, because at this point I had the balls to do just about any fucking thing. Trust and believe when I say self-mutilation was a big thing with me, and I had no problem doing it. You know, the medication really did fuck my head up. I had the knife to my arm, crying, bawling my eyes out. And I was ready to die. I was ready to die. I was ready. I was done. I couldn't deal with this life anymore. I don't know what stopped me. I truly don't know what stopped me. Because I had cut my arms before, I had done everything just to feel control over my life or control over something. I don't know what it was that stopped me from doing that. Because I had that knife right to my fucking vein and I was going to go straight up my arm. And I just started falling apart. The knife fell down by my side and I couldn't do it. I believe it was the fact at that point that I saw my daughter's face. And even though I had messed up her life so bad, and it wasn't just me that messed up her life, but again, that's another chapter. I saw her face and I knew that she was going to need me. And I had to figure out what to do at this point. I was lost. I was completely lost. And I walked out of the bathroom and I sat there and I just stared out into the abyss of bullshit. I believe it's that point I knew I needed help. I knew I needed fucking help. And unfortunately, I didn't get it at that point, and the addiction continued. It continued for years. Cutting and suicide attempts and just a bunch of bullshit. But finally, 3 years ago, I decided that I was done. I couldn't do it anymore. My body was falling apart. These pills, along with other pills that I had accumulated, what they now call, I believe it's called the Holy Trinity, would be Xanax, Soma, and Percocet. I had all three. I had the Holy Trinity for a very long time. But I realized it was freaking killing me. Slowly it was killing me. I have lupus, so lupus was killing me anyway. I think I was just accelerating it. And I finally decided to get help, and I got help, and I'm so thankful that I did. Every person that I lost along the journey came back into my life, and I'm so thankful every day. I am now 3 years sober. I am so incredibly proud of myself. I'm proud of everything I came through. Proud of the fact that I picked my life up. I did it. I knew at one point I needed the help. And if you know with addicts, you can lead them to water, but you sure as fuck can't make them drink. If they're not ready to get clean and sober, they won't. They will not. But when someone comes to you and says, I'm ready, you jump. If you love them, even if you don't know them, they want help, you do everything you can to help them. And that's what happened to me. So I'm happy to say I am 3 years sober. And yes, I've had pain medication in my life, but I was taught how to not abuse it. That is so, so important. So important. I can absolutely control it. But I also know when my body needs it. And also, I know if I go down that slope or see myself falling, I stop. I take every single precaution and everything I was taught to stop it, so I do not go down that hole. But I'm going to end this right now on once an addict, always an addict. It doesn't take much to make you go down that rabbit hole of fucking hell. You're always going to have that taste in your mouth. Trust and believe when I say that. But it's the support systems that you have in place that are going to make the difference in whether you fall or whether you rise above. I hope my story has helped someone. I truly do. If you all have any questions about what I went through, please put them in the comments below. I will be more than happy to make a part 2 follow-up to this video and answer your questions. But with all that being said, I love you all so, so very, very much. And I will talk to you soon.